Well, folks, welcome. Sorry, I have a little 6-year-old in the background here. As the production assistant gets a little bit antsy late in the afternoon. Um, but thanks for joining us. I'm excited to bring you the debut of Industry Leader with a colleague of mine who I've been looking at wanting to have on the podcast for a while, Karwanna Dyson, who's really a very unique entrepreneur in what she does and what she knows on getting six-figure government contracts. And I'm going to get to Karwanna in just a second. She's going to present. We're going to talk about her story, but I did want to just give a quick pitch about the new podcast. It's Industry Leader that just debuts today, and we're honored to have Karwanna on the debut episode. But really, we're going to be talking to industry leaders about important business topics. And if you are a business leader out there in your industry, an industry leader, do reach out to me. I do have spots available to come on at a promo. Now I'm inviting some of my key colleagues on, but there are some paid spots for virtual and in person as well. So with that, we're going to get to Karwanna. How are you today, Karwanna?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be on your show. I know it's been a long time coming, but I'm just grateful to be here today.
Great. And I've been following a lot of what you do, and I actually used to work in government myself, and I've worked, grew up as a government baby, so to speak. So I know the challenges of really getting work from the government. It really takes somebody with a inside knowledge and inside track, and that's what you have and what you teach people. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you to do a brief presentation, and we're going to talk a bit more about what you do and how you can help folks out there who want to generate success with government contracts.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so I do have a short presentation that I'm going to be sharing with you all today. But just to kind of get started, I'm Karwanna D. I'm a government contract strategist. I specialize in helping small business owners, particularly women in business or minority business owners, or just small business owners in general, how to grow their business significantly with government contracts, specifically so they can have consistent, sustainable income, but also to be able to build a legacy business, help close the wealth gaps, and also be able to, build a business that they can be very proud of without having to struggle. And so, in general, that's definitely what I do. But I'm definitely going to share my screen to, show you a presentation that I put together to kind of give you an idea, more a clear idea about government contracts and how it can work to help you really grow or thrive in business. Typically, because the concept of government contracting, most small business owners would never know that this is something that is definitely achievable and attainable for them, and they would never even consider the government as a client. So, outside of being a government contract strategist, I'm the founder of what I call the $1 trillion secret to government contracts. I am a certified government contractor myself, who's woman owned, minority owned. Of course, I'm a disadvantaged small business owner, multiple income stream producer, and I'm definitely a dream motivator. And I love to empower entrepreneurs with the information that I'm going to set forth here to you with you today. So over the next few minutes, I'm definitely going to be covering these particular subject matters. One is, what is government contracting? So these are the things you're going to learn about. How to qualify your business for government contracts. Of course, certifications and how to leverage your certifications to build a profitable business. And I'm going to go over the spend and the promise. So you'll know exactly what all of these things mean in just a moment. And if we have time left at the end, of course, I'm going to go into a bonus of 5 tips to quickly add an additional 6 figures to your business with government contracts, less than part-time. So I'll show you the numbers and show you exactly how it goes. Okay, so number one is, what is government contracting? This is this big, huge phenomena. Everybody wants to know, well, what is that anyway in the first place? So government contracts, in its simplest process, in it basically of doing business with the government. It's the same way you sell a product or service to a person. You can actually sell that product or service to a government agency, right? So if you can sell ice cream cone, to the public or to people who walk in to your ice cream store on the community, you can also get a contract to sell ice cream cones to the government agencies. They eat ice cream too. They're full of people. And so this is made possible through a very little known initiative. Um, I don't know if you remember the movie War Dogs, but in the movie War Dogs, Jonah Hill and his partner had landed a multi-million-dollar contract selling weapons to the military. And that was in the sums of $300 million. Most people thought that it was just a movie, but in real life, it was based off a real life story of a young man named Ephraim and his partner. They were 20-year-old kids who landed a $300 million contract with this little known initiative that I'm sharing with you here today. So it's a real life story. They were 20-year-olds, and what they discovered is that the government has money set aside for small business owners. And if you understand how to position yourself to be a part of that, then definitely this is how you can actually grow a very profitable business in a short amount of time. Here's just last year during COVID, most small business owners who are not currently doing some type of contracting, either with the government or with corporations, of course, experienced a tremendous loss in their business. But here, during the pandemic, this young man, 16-year-old Wesley Ross, saw the same initiative that Jonah Hill landed, in the movie War Dogs, landed this $300 million contract. He saw an opportunity for him to land millions of dollars in government contracts as a 16-year-old, selling masks and sanitary, what do you call that? The soap, so hand sanitizers, right, to the government, because of course during the pandemic, that everybody needed hand sanitizers, everybody wanted to clean up, everybody wanted to protect themselves. And so this 16-year-old definitely landed a multi-million-dollar contract with the government, which goes to say there's no age limit when it comes to doing business with the federal government. And so if a kid can do it, of course we as adults, we definitely can learn how to sell our services to the government. So number two, how do you qualify your business for government contracts? That's the number one top answer outside of learning what is government contracts. Of course, people want to know, well, how do you get in position? So here it is. And I do have a full business foundation document checklist that kind of tells you the documents that you need to have in business to start the process of selling your services to the government. And that's ideally general business documentation that you need to have anyway, right? So that includes your business license, your EIN, a Dun and Brad number, an ID to show who you are, a birth certificate to show that you are a U.S. citizen, or some type of naturalization card that show that you are a U.S. citizen. Of course, 2 to 3 years in taxes that shows that you're paying taxes either as a business or an individual. And if you're not, of course, there's some explanation letters that you can put together as to why you haven't paid taxes over the past 2 to 3 years, and so on and so forth. So ideally, when you look at this documentation list, this is the same documentation that basically ideally you need to have to start building business credit. So you can already see if you're in position to grow a thriving business and sell your services to the government, you're in a position to win in multiple ways by leveraging your business as a vehicle to generate several aspects of wealth. So number 3, certifications and leverage. So ideally, there's some set aside contracts for certain socioeconomic disadvantaged groups. Okay, you can't just be that and not officially become a certified socioeconomic person, right? Social disadvantaged economic, person of that particular group. There's a process, there's an application that happens, but out of the $9 trillion spend or more that the government spends annual on the federal government level only, so that doesn't even include what's being spent on a state or local level, 26% of that budget goes to these disadvantaged types of businesses, which includes minority businesses, small businesses, disadvantaged businesses, and woman business enterprises. Of course, there's a lot other areas, as you can see from this checklist. There's Native Americans, LGBT, there's micro, there's a bunch of different areas, but the ones that I highlighted in yellow are the basics. So ideally, if you have those basics, then you're optimized to do business on the local, state, and federal level of government, which opens up so many opportunities for you as a small business owner. So the 3 levels of government, of course, is the local, which is your city and county, the state, of which you live in, as well as the federal, which covers every state under the United States. So those particular certifications open up opportunities for you to do business with, I mean, the multiple, just vast number of agencies. So if you're wondering, like, where are the customers, or how do I grow my business? Do I need to chase individual customers, or can I serve an agency at a larger capacity and get paid, the value of my worth? And so this is the way to get that done. So the reason why they have these particular set aside programs, of course, is to close the equity gaps. They want to make sure they're diversifying and have inclusion within their government spend. And so the more categories you identify with, the more opportunities you are opening up and identifying for yourself, because every level of government has a certain percentage of every contract that goes to these particular socioeconomic disadvantaged groups. So having the more is the merrier, of course. So the spend, which is number 4, the spend and the promise. According to USAspending.gov, the US federal government spent $6 trillion in 2019. 26% of that was allocated to certified small business owners. So that's over $1.5 trillion that was on the table for small business owners. And if you're a small business and you're not partaking in that particular type of spend, then of course you're leaving opportunities on the table that you can be participating in. In 2019, as I mentioned earlier, the government spend, which was last year during the pandemic, that budget was increased to $9 trillion. So that's $3 trillion more that was on the table. And out of that $9 trillion, 26% is $2.3 trillion, right? Which is $690 billion more that was on the table for small businesses in 2020. So if you know, or maybe you were a business that was impacted by COVID, which made you have to close your doors, then this right here is the lifesaver. This is the reason why some businesses were able to thrive during the pandemic while others had to close their doors, is because they don't understand the power of government contracts, or maybe just not know that this is something that exists to help them build their business. And lastly, this is 5 tips that I want to share that will quickly help you identify and show you how to add an additional 6 figures to your business with government contracts. So let's just say you're already maybe a 6-figure business. You can add additional 6 figures without having to work overtime or chase a million customers to make that happen. One contract can put you into the multiple 6-figure realm. So number 1 is the first tip. You have to know your numbers. Okay. Knowing your numbers mean out of the 2.3 trillion, which is the 26% of money that was on the table in 2020, you want to think about it like, what's in it for me? That's 2.3 billion or trillion, 2.3 trillion that's on the table. That's what's on the table for you. So in your mind, if you are a small business owner that's looking at opportunities and things that are already being spent, guaranteed customer, with the government or whatever, you want to think about, well, 1% of that, right? What if I infiltrate 1% of that $2.3 trillion spend? That's 400 million that's on the table for you. Even if you did half of that, that's still 200 million as a woman-owned business or minority business or disadvantaged small business owner. 5% of that is 200 million that's on the table that you could be partaking in, right? So number 1 is you have to know the numbers. And once you know the numbers, of course, you have to know how to get in position. Getting in position is basically, there's a guaranteed pool of income or spend that is happening all around us, whether you're participating in it or not. If you really think about driving down the street, somebody's building the infrastructure. It's not the government, they're contractors. When you stop at a stoplight, someone installed those stoplights. It's not the government, it's the contractor. When you walk down the street and you see construction signs or signs going up or fencing going up, those are contractors. Even driving cars, like they're with the government, like all the city cars and vehicles, those are small business owners that contracted those vehicles out to government agencies. So money is being spent all around us. The question is, are you getting your piece of the pie? And if not, you want to definitely position yourself as a certified official woman business, minority business that's disadvantaged, or a small business, so that you can participate in the spend that's happening, whether with or without you, right? So number three is marketing proposition. You have to have a plan of action. Just knowing the numbers and getting in position is not enough. You have to know, how are you going to market your service to the government? What type of services are they purchasing right now? And what agencies are purchasing those services, and how do you get in front of them? So that's all about understanding the marketing part, because you do have to proactively market yourself to the government. Do they also reach out to you? Yes, there are some passive contracting opportunities that will come your way simply because you're in position. But proactively building a contracting business with the government allows you to have more consistent, sustainable income over longer periods of time. So number four, the fourth bonus is set a goal, right? So let's just say set a financial goal. Now that you know the numbers, you're in position, you've been doing some marketing. Now, what is your goal? How many contracts do you feel like you need to land to reach your financial goal? So for example, let's just say you're a janitorial service and you have a business cleaning, right? And let's just say at bare minimum, you charge $50 an hour for your cleaning services. And to clean a particular type of project, it's going to take you 20 hours to do that. So ideally, if you were doing that with individual clients, it would take you, and your goal is to have a six-figure business or $100,000 to generate that in an annual year. Of course, that would be $1,000 per client, and you need 1,000 clients in order to reach your six-figure business, versus a contract where you're paid minimum $250 an hour, and it still takes you that 20 hours of service to complete that project. So now we're looking at $5,000 per service, right? And let's just say at the government contracting level, you negotiate in your contract, you're going to do that cleaning twice a month. So in 24 days out of the year, you will already have reached your six-figure income. 24 days to generate $120,000 is doable. I see it. It happens all the time. And sometimes even less than 24 days, you can achieve that. Okay. So from there, you definitely, number five is you want to duplicate what you just did. If you just duplicate what you just did in 24 days to generate 120,000, right? In 48 days, you will have generated 240,000. And if you duplicate that again in 96 days, which is less than 1/4 out of the year, or a little over 1/4 out of the year, you will have generated over 480,000. That's $500,000 in 3 months for your business. That is the power of government contracts. That is definitely one of the biggest kept secrets to doing business as a small business owner. And of course, if you consider yourself or want to know who are they calling small business owners, or what's the definition, if you have under 500 employees and generating a minimum, ideally under $30 million a year, you're considered a small business owner. So for those who are not even generating 80,000, maybe 100,000, 200, $250,000 already, you're considered a hyper micro small business owner, which makes all of this works even better for you, because there's even more demand to utilize small business owners to help them reach those particular numbers. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you. Hopefully this was an eye opener, and it was empowering and informational for you to learn more about government contracting. Of course, you can go to qualifyforgovernmentcontracts.com. That is my website for qualifyforgovernmentcontracts.com, or you can follow me on social media. I have a YouTube channel under youtube.com/Karwanna D. And that is my presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to, ask away.
Great work, Karwanna. And we will keep an eye on the comment section a bit later. If there are questions, I'll tag you on the post and you can answer them there. They can contact you for more info. And, that was a real gold mine of a presentation and a business strategy. I think, it's really a great success story there of, what you've been able to put together in terms of getting the contracts yourself and then
Mm.
teaching other people how to do those. And it really couldn't be more timely right now. That big increase in 2020, and who knows what 2021 will hold. But,
Right.
there's really about, you said upwards of, $9 trillion total government spending, of which 25% is available for small business. So that is a impressive amount. And, really as small business owners, if we're not, going after that business, you're really missing out on about a third of the economy, or so to speak. And then, just one contract can make your whole life a lot easier,
Yeah.
as you were demonstrated. And I loved your command of the numbers and the approachability. And I did just want to ask about just those wanting to get to know you a little bit more, just about how you got into this business and just your kind of personal story. And I don't want to insult you by saying rags to riches, but really
Yeah.
that's what it is compared to
Yeah.
where you are now, compared to probably where you started.
Of course, definitely. I mean, like most business owners, of course, who started off with a small business, it wasn't easy. I know several small business owners that kind of bootstrapped their way to the top. I kind of grew up in San Francisco, small community, in the urban community where, of course, in your surroundings where you come up, when you don't see successful business owners or you don't see like mentors who can show you how to start a business the right way, then you try to figure it out the way that is done in the books or the way the society says, wait 2 years, 2 to 5 years to turn a profit. Don't even expect that, right? In the first year, right? Or go to the bank and get a loan so you can be in debt in your business. And sometimes you can't even afford to get those loans because maybe there's some credit issues there, right? And so bootstrapping is definitely something that I started in the beginning, following those things that I was taught and that I knew about. And so for the first few years in business, I struggled like many other small business owners. I struggled to make ends meet. I struggled to get clients. And of course, I was on the customer chase, and so I was looking for something different. And I knew that it was something out there. I just didn't know what it was. So I was looking for a way to not ever have to go back to work for someone else because I knew that, of course, entrepreneurship is something that can help you generate massive wealth in a shorter amount of time. And no job could ever replace what you can do as a small business owner in your business. And so, as a freelancer, when I first started out chasing individual customers, I did start working with like successful business owners doing freelance photography and video production, like building out websites for them. Until I started asking questions. Well, how did you grow your business this big? How did you start off without having to go to the bank? How did you position yourself without having to bootstrap your way the way that I'm struggling to make it happen? And once a very successful business owner, his name was Clifton Birch, Empire Engineering Construction Inc. He's the first African American multi-billionaire that I had ever known, who said the same thing that you're doing for me, you can do for the government. That's all that he needed to say. And from there, I went from struggling to barely make ends meet, which I was barely generating about 15 to 20,000 a year, which, in the San Francisco Bay Area, nobody can really live and afford to live off of that, to landing my first contract, which was $70,000 for 28 days of work. And so, and this is for photography services. So if you ask the question, like, what can you sell to the government? Like I said, if you can sell it to a person, you can sell it to the government. They buy everything that we consume, everything that we utilize, everything that we produce and provide a service for. You can sell it to the government. And literally, I have clients that are selling wigs, to the government. And so so that just kind of give you an idea of what you can sell, just about anything. And so definitely once I realized that not only does one government contract, not only can that change your life, but buy you your time back. But the key is to have multiple contracts and you can do that simultaneously. So there's no limitation. And so I went back and looked at everything that I had did to land that contract and all the steps, and I began to document all the steps that it took me to get there. And I just tested doing it again. And then I landed another contract, and then I landed another one, and then another one. And before I knew it, I had like multiple contracts simultaneously. And I went from a struggling business that was barely making 20K a year to having a multiple six-figure business, working less than part-time. And so that's definitely, the evolution And it took me, some years to really learn that this was possible. I had no idea, but I had to really think strategically out the box, so that I can, position myself. So all the things that I shared, of course, in my presentation was identifying and knowing the numbers and getting in position and knowing how to market yourself to the government. Now I teach other small business owners how to do that effectively. And when I first landed my contract, the first thing that came to mind for me was, why don't people know this? Why isn't, and I have a business degree, a master's degree in business, in fact, but never once in a business class do you hear that you can sell your services to the government. You hear the traditional things that, save your money to start a business, go to the bank to get a business loan, those traditional, go in debt to start a business. But in your first year, you could be highly profitable in your first year and not have to wait 2 to 5 years to turn a profit. So that's my kind of rags to riches story.
Great and a beautiful story. And I did want to ask you just kind of where to get started in terms of if somebody's watching this and goes, well, I want to do that.
Mhm.
What's the process for where do they go next? And I believe you have an online course and some
Mhm.
other things that you offer. If you don't mind
Yeah.
just giving us a quick summary there.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's definitely a lot of resources out there for small business owners. Me in particular, I have a 6-week coaching program where I walk you through the exact same steps that I went through to start landing government contracts successfully. It includes like getting started, the documentation, the certifications, of course, the strategies and how to market yourself, to bid, and understanding what all that looks like. And you can visit my site at trilliondollargovernmentcontracts.com to learn more or to apply to work with me inside my program. For some people, of course, they want to try to figure it out on their own, and that's fine as well. And there's 3 levels of government. So here's some resources that you can check out, if this is something that you think you want to try, to go on your own and try to figure it out as well. There's a local, state, and federal government. In California, where we are, of course, there's the local city and county. For the local certification, there's a state of California, for the state certification. There's a Department of Transportation for the disadvantaged business enterprise certification. And of course, there's a federal government, which is sam.gov for the federal certification. What I find that most small business owners that try to attempt to do it on their own, they're stuck. They don't have the system, and it takes them years to try to figure it out, and they never land a contract. And so that's why I created a program to help walk you through, to take all the heavy guesswork off the table to help you get there faster. But definitely those resources are out there for you to do it yourself. There's the SBA, there's PTAC, there's all these other resources that kind of show you steps, but they don't show you the strategy, if that makes sense.
No, I'm all about strategy, and I love the phrase "working smarter, not working harder." And
Right.
this is really a gold mine for entrepreneurs, and it's just great to hear that somebody with your story who's done it and has stories to tell and also advice to give and strategies to share. I wanted to just see if you have any quick anecdotes or stories of how you've helped your clients or trainees in terms of the what you've done for them and the results that you've seen them
Yeah.
accomplish.
Yeah. So here's a great story. Actually, I have a couple of them. Most recently, I want to say in November of 2020, I was doing like these live challenge on Facebook, and one of the young ladies, actually, I was giving out a scholarship into my program, and one of the young ladies that actually won the scholarship came from homelessness, came from like a huge struggle, was sleeping in her car, all those things. But she had a business and was trying to figure out a way to grow her business. And this was like, so for her, this was like a gold mine. And also, so what happened was she started working with me into the program in November. I walked her through all the steps of becoming certified, understanding marketing, understanding bidding, like the whole system strategy. By February of 2021, she landed her first contract selling diversity inclusion services to the government. By March of this year, which was just last month, she landed her second year-long 12-month contract with the government as well. And so that is one particular, success story that I love to share. Another story is I said I have a client that actually sell prosthetic wigs. She was trying to figure out, well, how if you could sell anything, to the government, can you show me how to sell these wigs to the government? And so I helped her walk through and understand like it's more than just what you sell. Sometimes you have to think outside the box, right? Because if you think government, you're not going to think hair salon, beauty supply. You're definitely not going to think wigs at all. But when you think about it from the aspect of there's war veterans who need like prosthetic wigs and surgeries because they have these things going on. Of course, you can sell that service to the government. And so after going through my program and working with me and understanding how to position her business as a woman-owned business, that's a disadvantaged business. Of course, now she's selling prosthetic wigs to the federal government and the Department of Veteran Affairs. And another client of mine. Okay, so here's another story. So I have two others that I want to share. So another story of a client of mine who had a software. So she's an app developer, and she does like community things with young at-risk youth and teaching them how to basically prepare themselves for college. And she didn't know if the government will purchase her college app, like college readiness app for urban youth. And so after working with me into the program and going through all the strategies, now she's selling her app services to and licensing her app to the Department of Education. So definitely there's several different opportunities. Janitorial is another. I work with a janitorial company who actually got into position to start selling their services to the government, doing janitorial cleanup. Now he's also doing COVID cleanup, and there's construction cleanup, and removal. Of course, there's a lot of different opportunities. It's all about positioning. But what I love most is like showing people opportunities where they don't think there are opportunities. So those are some of the success stories. I've had the privilege of working with these folks, and ideally, most of them are landing contracts within their within month 3 to 6 months of working with me and going through the program.
Yeah, sounds great. I'd love to look at going through that program and offering some video and marketing to the government.
Yeah.
I did want to just end on this about who your ideal client is. I know you've mentioned that you've helped various people in other places. Are there certain things you look for, people that you might be able to speak to about who should connect with you?
Yeah. So ideally, my ideal client is a small business owner that's at least been in business for about 6 to 12 months minimum. Have a professional service that they provide, and they've done it before. And ideally, I see that most small business owners that are generating some type of revenue have the means to invest in education and knowledge to help them take their revenues to the next level, right? So no one that has like zero income because they don't see the value of investing in their business to grow it to multiple 6 figures because they haven't even gotten close to multiple 6 figures on their own. So those are ideally my clients. It could be women, men, just small business owners that are ready to do the work, because it's definitely work that needs to be done. Those who are coachable and can keep an open mind and are just ready to position themselves to win and to secure their future so that they can have a retirement as a self-employed, entrepreneur, but also just ready to build a legacy and be in a position to give back in some extraordinary way using their business.
Excellent. Well, great. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your knowledge and showing why you're an industry leader in the field. And I'm sure a lot of folks out there are going to find this broadcast very interesting. So thanks so much,
Yeah,
Karwanna.
thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.